Alright, let's scoot myself over here. Let's go. Items on Invoker. What do we build on an Invoker? On Exort Invoker specifically, and this is where I'm going to put the focus, we are going to build the following. What we want to have is null talismans, and we want to have Midas as soon as we can. Midas is really the emphasis on what's happening here. The question is, how do we get an efficient starting build without like going out of base with nothing, and yet still getting the most efficient item timing of Midas. Midas item timing can be anything from, like, if you're really fast, 6 minutes to 9 minutes, and then you're kind of pushing it. In my opinion, starting with Circlet, Mantle of Intelligence, and another Circlet, and then you still have the Absorbot, of course, which is free, and Fairy Fire's Iron Branch is the way to go. So you're gonna have, I think, 50 gold or something like that left, and then once the Bounty Rune spawns and your team gets a Bounty Rune, you can instantly deliver a Tango. And this allows you to be very, very stat efficient, even in the first wave, and then in the second wave you're gonna have your Tango already, and the Item Branch actually allows you to stay on the line, place an Iron Branch, eat the Tango, so you don't even have to leave the lane and walk back to your tree side to get the heal that you want. And on the other hand, again, we have efficiency of like getting all of the attributes, and then a longer duration on your Tango. After this, you want to go for Magic Stick and Raindrops if you play against heroes that have different set of skills that allow them to like cast spells and burst your way. Stick, of course, would be great against the spirits. This is Void Spirit and all the other spirits, like we know them. And against Bedrat, of course. And if you have Puck or Lina, something like this, Stick is always great. I just played a game against Void Spirit where I died first blood to him because I didn't buy Stick and I didn't buy the Raindrops. One thing that happens now, if you know that you are against a matchup like this and you want to buy the Stick and the Raindrop, then you're going to realize that your item slots are just running out. Like, you don't have enough item slots to actually build the way you do here. So an option you can go for is you can just start with one null talisman and then build one null talisman and tangos, and then straight up build it into Stick and infuse Raindrops. This way you have a clean item setup and it's not messy, and you can go for the Glove of Haste as soon as possible. Alright, once you have the Midas, which the timing here, I think 7 to 9 minutes is pretty realistic. If you don't get it, you probably still want to get it, especially if you saved a ton of gold and you didn't use it for anything else. Like, every second you stack up gold that you don't use, it better be worth the investment. And if you're close to the Midas and you think like, now I changed my mind and now I suddenly have items, then you miss the items that you could have used, for example, if you are an active invoker that goes for Urn and stuff like this. So you want to finish your Midas, then you probably want to go for the second null talisman, since we started with the double circlet. And then we want to go into Brown Boots. Brown Boots is really important because Invoker is a super slow hero. Like, he's strong in taking objectives, he's strong in controlling areas, but he's super slow, and that's why we usually build Brown Boots straight into TP Boots, and then usually we want to have the BKB. An option you can go for if you play against physical cores and you know, okay, spells are not the main thing I have to be worried about, or maybe spells worry me in 15 minutes and not just right now. Then you can go, for example, for the Witchblade straight after the Brown Boots, which is a great tool because it allows you to farm faster, it allows you to have impact if you show up in the fights, you don't die from physical damage as fast, and then you can, with this farm advantage speed basically that you have, you can get an earlier timing on Witchblade BKB or Witchblade TP Boots compared to going for TP Boots Witchblade, if this makes sense. After this, you always want to have a BKB. Like, BKB has to be, after Midas, it has to be an item that follows close up. Many times I tried to go like Witchblade and Shiva's Guard, Witchblade and just Plate Mail, but you're gonna realize that you need BKB. Invoker is super reliant on BKB, at least the way I play it. I think at least the way it should be played. You want to close the gap, you need to get off your spells. If you want to get an Ice Wall off, it means that you're in there, and the tool that gets you out is BKB. For example, if people buy Dust and you want to escape, you just wait, you let them lose Dust, you press BKB, dispel it, and then you're still invis and you're off. Orchid, utility item, I think. This guy's still talking, cool. Alright. Let me quit this. Orchid Malevolence is a great utility item if you know that the enemies don't have Dispel, and if you have a super nice timing. Like if you realize, hey, I just got my Orchid in 7 minutes, I just killed this guy 2 times in lane. If I get an Orchid in like, whatever, 15 minutes, even earlier, and you know you can stomp this game, go for it. If you don't, the problem with Orchid is that you're gonna find yourself in a scenario where you almost finish your Orchid, and once you have it, you realize you can silence one guy and you probably still die, and your map power hasn't really improved because you probably rushed it and didn't even build the TP boots. You're gonna go in there, you're gonna cast Orchid on one guy, another guy comes and stuns you, you're instantly dead because you don't have BKB. So we don't want to do that. We really don't want to do that. A better alternative if you need to catch people, which is in most scenarios what you want to do, especially if you play against the spirits, is you want to go for Hex. Because if you build Orchid, they're gonna see that you build the Orchid, and they're just gonna build Yules, and then all the potential that you had is wasted. Or if they have a Dispel, that's always super annoying. If you buy Hex, maybe a little bit later then, but Hex is always the more reliable option. For example, one build you could go for, if they have some sort of physical damage, is you could go Hand of Midas into Witchblade, and then into Boots of Travel, BKB, and then you can go for Hex. So Hex is not your second item, not your third maybe, but it can follow up after this. Blink Dagger is a great utility item. Sometimes it's just a good alternative. Like if you feel whatever I buy, like even if I buy Orchid or if I buy Hex, it doesn't really make a difference, and they have like area spells or like are really difficult to teamfight, you can just go for Blink, and then you can find the good initiations that wouldn't be able to be created even if you have Hex, and you can find them and you can play according then to this. So it helps in the positioning. It also helps you to split push. Like the amount of mobility that you get from split pushing, that's just amazing. For stuff, great tool. There are some heroes that just get completely deleted if you buy this item. Sky is one of this, or Tree, or Clockwork are heroes like that, that they heavily rely on you being stuck at one position to actually do something. Like if you imagine Sky, he buys Roll of Atos, he's gonna try to ult to you. Well, you buy a stat efficient item like Force Stuff, you're just gonna press one button, you're out. The great other thing is you can always use it for your teammates. So this is this plays into the narrative of like usually building like a carry, but playing more like a team-friendly support. That's a great thing if you wanna sustain and you know, okay, this might really help me out. There are some games, especially keep Sky, Tree, and Clockwork in mind. I should probably write them in here. Clock. There we go. On this, if you need to survive the first initial stun and the first initial whatever chrono or Tidehunter ult, and you know they're gonna blast all of their spells and then they're basically done. If you just need to survive this, then I guess Aeon Disc is great. I don't really buy it that often. I think they're just more valuable items there. Alright, let's get into Shiva's Guard. Shiva's Guard is a really great item that's drastically underestimated, and one big thing that it actually does for you is the passive. If you look at that, I can't look at that. Maybe I place myself here. If you look at the passive here, it reduces the attack speed of all enemies and all heals, regeneration, and lifesteal by 25%. This is a little bit the same effect as Eye of Scotty. Eye of Scotty pretty much does the same thing, but Chivas does it better for Invoker, because you don't really need a slow usually, which is also given by your active ability, and you have an EUE slow, so this is great, we want to have that. But also you have the armor, and we have some intelligence, which really never hurts an Invoker. Blade Mail especially, maybe I should even swap this around. Blade Mail especially is such an underestimated item. Like, if they have physical damage and you go Witchblade and just Blade Mail even without finishing it, because you're like, okay, I need a Hex afterwards to follow it up, or I want to get a Blink Dagger or Octavincore or Lincolns, whatever, you're basically unkillable, or it's really difficult for them to kill you, because they don't have a window of 5 seconds to bash into you, even if they're an Ursa, and you can just, like, Tornado or Deafening Blast, or you have spells to save yourself on the one hand, and if they have BKB piercing physical damage, then you just go for the armor and you're gonna be tanky like nothing else. Kaya Sanj, I've seen it a couple times, some people do it. It seems to be pretty balanced if you go for it with BKB. Like, you have just an abundance of stats, and of course you have the extra attack, what is it called? You have the extra spell damage, spell amplification damage, which is great. But I don't have it that many times. I think Lincoln's might be even more favorable. I think actually everything might be more favorable than that. A lot of things. You can think about it. If it's a great game, if you see that especially the status resistance is going to help you against, I don't know, Bane Grip, or things that you can't like dispel even if you have a BKB, and you think Lincoln's isn't the thing because they can proc it like 1,000 times, then you might want to go for the Sench. You have the status resistance, you have the extra stats from the Kaya. It's not that bad actually. Lincoln's is a great item. There are some setups, Legion Commander, Wind Ranger, what did I write, Bane, where Lincoln's, you basically have to get it unless you really manage to get around with positioning. But for me, Lincoln's is an item, if I feel like I'm not that much better than the enemies at positioning myself, then I need an items against specifically those heroes to save myself and to keep going, and this is a Lincoln's. Don't forget about Lincoln's, you can share the Lincoln's. Like, you can press the active Lincoln's on a teammate. So if you see that somebody might be getting gone on, just use Lincoln's, save their life. It's a great tool. Octavincore. I love Octavincore. It's so much fun. The amounts of spell you can press out, especially with the Cold Snap reduction talent. What is it called? The Cold Snap cooldown reduction talent. That's such a fun build, and you can really get into that and do a lot of different things with it. You can set up the combos. You can split out lanes efficiently. You have a bit of stats if you don't want to die. You have the cast range, which is huge. Like, it's a really fun thing to have. And if you combo this, for example, with the Shard, which actually decreases the cooldown of your Meteor as well, you can just constantly spam out spells. And there are so many hero setups, like Ursa comes in mind. If you imagine you can compare Shiva's Guard, Witchblade, and Octavincore. This guy, he's gonna get slowed all the time, he can't really reach you for the physical damage, you're gonna run at max movement speed on level 25, it's just hard to catch up, and once he uses BKB, you kite him in every single way. Like, he uses ulti, you lift him up with Tornado, and you use all the spells that you have to just create chaos, and you can be way more free and open with just spamming spells, because you know cooldown isn't that long anyways. If you can compare this, actually, if you can match it up and get a spell prism in addition to it, that would be just amazing. That's like the dream of every invoker. You just love to play like that. Alright, Witchblade, we talked about it, it's a great early item if you have two. This is usually the criteria for me. If I have two enemy cores that rely on physical damage, then it's a nice excuse, or that's a good reason to buy into Witchblade. Just because of the armor that you get, you can usually start with the Blitz Knuckles if you feel you're not under constant attack at the beginning, or if you just want to really rush it. For example, on heroes like Puck, they do that as well. You can get the Robe of Magi at the beginning of the lane, it helps you out, or if you play against Klings or any like really nasty physical heroes on mid lane even, or Kunkka, you can just get the chainmail right away, and then even finish like other things like boots if you just want to have to sustain. Against Kunkka, by the way, don't forget to buy raindrops as well. It's very underrated, but his ulti does a lot of magical damage, so you want to have that. Cool. Then we have Assault Cuirass. Assault Cuirass, it's a really lovely item. The most important item, I think, if you want to push towers. And in Dota, in the end, it's about pushing towers and getting objective. And what Assault Cuirass allows you to do is to do exactly that. So you get Blade Mail, you probably get another item after Blade Mail, but then you're going to realize, okay, I could go for Hex after it, I could go for Octarine, maybe you don't need either of those items, and then you can choose to go for Assault Cuirass, just finish the item up, make it a round thing, and then you're going to realize that your physical attack damage is actually huge, and you can even compare it, I always say compare, but you can pair it, for example, with Alacrity, and then the Alacrity talent, if you want to go for this route, and then your physical attack damage is actually amazing. Get a Quasvex Exort passive effect on the talent as well, and you're an absolute beast. So going the physical route is always funny. It's not always needed, but if it's needed, you should go for it, and then some games are so much easier. I see it many times if you have cores that don't hit buildings, PL comes to mind, or like heroes that set it up, give you the opportunity because the enemies are zoned from the illusions, for example, but they don't actually take buildings that fast. You can just combo it up with Assault Cuirass. Great thing. Next one, Scotty. Scotty's kind of meme, or I don't know exactly how you bring Scotty in, but there are some games where, where it might shine. The reason, again, is like Shiva's guard, you can combine. I always mix up compare and combine. That's crazy. You can combine Shivas and Scotty together if you really want to go that route, and what you get then is, again, the health regeneration reduce, and the heal reduce, and the lifesteal reduce, and the spell lifesteal reduce by 40%, plus the Shiva's effect from 25%, and then you're really taking enemies down. And you have a BKB piercing slow, which can be great as well, and on the other hand you have a ton of stats, so you're very, very survivable. Again, we could combine it with some armor. If you have a little bit of armor and a ton of HP, that helps as well. Can keep it in mind if there are games for it. I think usually there are better times to get for. Same as Spirit Vessel. If you play Exort, you don't really buy Spirit Vessel that often, but it's the same effect again. You have the HP regeneration, healing lifesteal, spell lifesteal reduction. It's great against Patch and Bristleback and Morphling and all of those heroes that rely on a ton of HP and on lifesteal especially. Gios can be a great item. I recently had a really, really tough Invoker game where I felt like Hoodwink and what was it, Void, and all of those heroes, they constantly locked me down and stunned me and moved my position, and then they hit Basher and all of the things like that, and I just had to get out of the way. And if you buy Yules or Wind Waker even later on, then that's a great item to get out of difficult situations. You can also use it against Puck ulti, for example. If you Wind Waker out of it, you can save teammates with it, which is another great thing. Like if you realize you have a Phantom Assassin carry and she's always getting locked down like crazy, then you can help out with something like this if you have the gold for it in the late game. TP boots, of course. Why is it even there? I don't know. It should be there. Damage. If you want to put out raw damage, then Aghanim Scepter is probably one way to go, but you need a setup for it. Some people say Aches is enough, but maybe Aches. I had so many games where I feel like Aches is not enough. The timing isn't just right. Maybe he doesn't get the initiation. The big thing, even if you have a Void or Titan this, you always have to think about the impact that it has, because you're going to spend 4,200 gold and you're going to spend it relatively early. And if you spend it that early, that means you're basically useless because you don't have other items that fulfill the jobs you usually have to do. So you have to be pretty sure, and you have to rely on your teammate that they actually manage to get out the combo. Like if you feel like it's obvious my Void is going to hit a 2-man chrono at least, and we're going to just nuke out those guys and then we move forward, then you really don't need anything else than an Aghanim. But if you have a Void and he misses just 2 or 3 chronos, then basically your gold just evaporates, and once you get into a stage where your Sunstrike combo doesn't burst people anymore, it's kind of useless and you wasted your like early aggression potential. On the other hand, you can always build in a late game. Like if you get into 60 minutes and you realize you have a ton of gold, which is usually what happens with me with Invoker, you get like 500, 600, 700 CS, then you can easily buy it, just upgrade it, get the upgraded version, put it in the backpack, you're done. Desolator, it's a little bit of a fun build as well, but if you compare Assault Cuirass, I say it again, if you combine Assault Cuirass and Desolator together and you split push only, the scenario has to be something like this. You have teammates that have abilities to fight and to kite out fights, but they don't really have the ability to take towers. What you can do is you can just let them fight as 4, maybe you cast a couple spells, then you TP to the other lane, you take a set of Rex before they can even react, because it's ridiculously fast with both of those items, and you're good to go. You do it 2 times and you basically won the game because you opened up all the map. Daedalus? Why not? Bloodthorn is the logical conclusion if you want to keep your Orchid that you bought at the beginning. Like if you bought an Orchid because you think you're ahead anyways and you can keep up the tempo of the game, you can buy the Bloodthorn and upgrade it actually, or like upgrade the Orchid. But what I see a lot of times is that people buy the Orchid even if they have a really great game. They buy the Orchid and get BKB and other items, and then they sell the Orchid and build it into an hex. So you could say this is really gold inefficient, but if you manage to leverage the energy that you get from an early Orchid, and then you realize they build items to counter your Orchid, and then you just get the hex anyways, then you double mindfuck them, and you're in a really great position. Then we have some neutral items. I don't know, you can see it for yourself. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. I tried to order them some way, but it's not like that clear, and many times it's not up to you anyways, because you don't get all the neutral items you want, and your teammates maybe not, they don't give you the items, or you find better setups. Alright. Really quick, we can go over the item build here. This is how it should look. This is like the perspective that you want to go for. If you play Exort Invoker, you're probably going to start with Exort, and then you're going to go Quas, Exort all the way. What you can do is you can mix it up. For example, if you play against Lina, Queen of Pain, whatever heroes that really punish you and that you feel are able to put on a lot of damage to you, you can prefer Quas to Exort on every uneven level, so that you on level 3 you could have 2 points in Quas already. On level 5 you can have 3 points in Quas already. That just enables you to get that more HP out, which prevents you from wasting all of your gold and buying regeneration tools, and you can get your Midas a little bit earlier. So this would be that line of thinking there. Sometimes you realize you don't even need the extra attack damage because you have a Fort Spirit as well, and you can CS pretty well. Then going for Quas might just be the solution against like dagger spamming Queen of Pains or Linas that burst everything out of you. But in general, once you level 8, you want to have 4 points in Exort, you want to have 4 points in Quas. This allows you to get the double Fort Spirit, which is your biggest power spike at the beginning as Exort level. With this you can pressure towers incredibly well, you can push out waves, you can secure 2 runes, you can scout for vision, you can farm neutral camps incredibly fast. After this, either level 9 or level 8, you have to kind of think about this. We can probably set it like this. If you level if you realize you don't need Vex because you have the ability to constantly set out Sunstrikes, and you know you're not really getting gone on, you don't need a Safer Tornado, you don't need to go Invis, you don't need Alacrity to push towers, then you can just keep farming neutral camps with Exort and provide your team that extra strong Sunstrike if they have a decent setup. And you can skip level Vex on level 9, and you just get it on level 10, and then you keep going. Other than that, it's really simple. You want to get 404 in any way or shape between, and then you get you max out Exort, you max out Vex, then you get the talents, then you max out Quas, and then you get the last talent. So priority is on Exort, that's why we call it Exort Invoker, and then you get Quas, and Vex just follows naturally. We've been talking about the talents in the last video, so I think we should be fine with that so far. Cool. Did I miss anything? I have this guide actually uploaded, so if you add me on Steam or anything, you can just get the same guide, try it out, mix things up yourself, adjust it to your playstyle. I'm gonna try to keep it up to date. I'm gonna try, well, that's what I say now, but I'm gonna try to keep working at it, update it in general if like new patches come out, if new items come out, whatever. Alright. Yeah, so far for this video. The next one should probably be an outlook on how you play. Alright, hope you enjoyed it.